with Charlotte Lewis with Share It with Charlotte podcast. I am the creator and host, and also with my theme being finding balance in relationship. Where I left off in part one and part two, as it addressed peeling away the pain, I just wanted to pick up where I left off, and then we'll go into the next episode. The one of the questions that I asked in the end of part two was, so where are you? Where are you as far as pain? Where are you as far as pain you suppressed? Whether it be internal pain, whether it's pain that you haven't yet identified. All of that is part of where you hurting. And so I wanted to do more than just bring my story to you from last week and bring it up to where we are today. But I want to give you something that can hopefully help you, that you can find your level of comfort, your level of place that you can actually share what you feel, one that you can find where you can express yourself freely, and one that you actually at a place where you can allow yourself to be vulnerable to those feelings. Because it's not enough to just identify what pain is, but what do you do with the pain once that is awakened? And so I hope in my podcast with Peeling Away the Pain that you were able to, if you were in a state of where you haven't yet dealt with some things in life that you still was carrying around, that you're allowed to make space within you that have set up really were home in you and live with you over the years. I had some people that actually reached out to me that was carrying things that they had not even dealt with. That was like in the 50s, 60s, and even 70s. And that's a long time to be carrying something that you never dealt with. But this is real. Pain is real. All of this in my pain, what I shared with you, was very much real to me because I felt every bit of that. But I had to make a choice as to what I want to do with it. Did I want something to consume me, to possess me, or did I want to take control of it? And I chose to take control of it. And that's why, as peeling away the pain, and which I want to bring to you because I wanted to allow you to know that you can too make a difference and you really don't have to give in to the pain that's in you, that you're allowed to take root in you. And so today, what we have is a special guest. This is for me, my very first guest. My first three podcasts has been about um, just me speaking, sharing with you, allowing you to know me, who I am, part of my history, my life journey, so that as I continue to present myself to you, at least you have some idea as to who I am, and I have a better means of connecting with you. But today we have Shamary Wickware. And I'm so impressed with this young lady because I've known her for many years. And she has obtained her master's in psychology. She has, over the last several years, she's been a relationship coach. And she deals with people who are in pain and who has trauma, who haven't yet dealt with that. So picking up where my podcast ended, my last episode, part one and two, is the perfect way and the perfect avenue to venture into something as far as giving you tools that you can use, another avenue that you can hopefully heal. That's all part of this podcast. It's not just bringing you information, but it's also helping you to find your place of comfort so that you can heal beyond your pain and fill that void with something else like love. Then also learn to love yourself, learn to love other people. Sharing this newness in you once you release that of this new person that has now transformed into something that you didn't even think that you could ever be. And that's all part of that. So before we move into a new guest, I want to encourage you to open up, to find your place of comfort. Find whatever that is for you, because this is all about finding healing. And that's more than just, like I said, information bring it to you. But we want to make sure that you are able to be your best self in this place and where you are in life. So before I say anything else, why don't we go ahead and bring Shamari in, and I'm hoping that you guys will, as you listen, any question you may have, any concern, anything that may be said that intrigued you or that you found to be insightful, you want to know more, go to my website, www.sharewithcharlotte.com, and let us know what those questions are and your concerns or anything that you might want to share. Please allow that to happen because She has a wealth of information that I hope would be very helpful, very insightful, and very healing to you so that you can find your journey. Hi,
Hi.
Shamary. Good to have you. I'm so excited that you actually are my first guest. And say welcome
Hello.
to
Thank
Share
you
with
so
Charlotte
much.
Podcast. Good. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, like you said, I am a relationship coach at HERspective. I started that business basically to help others in their relationships. When I say relationships, I don't always mean intimate partnerships. It means a relationship with yourself, relationship with your coworkers, your kids, just basically you relating out into the world.
Awesome.
Um, that is a passion of mine because I believe that everything around us begins with the relationship that we have with ourselves. And then we emit that into the world, and then the world basically mirrors that back to us. So that's kind of what I do for a living. It is a passion of mine. It is God given. It is something that I've been doing for many, many years. However, I've just started working with my own clients within the last 7 years. And I just really enjoy it. I really love it. Again, I'm going to try to make sure that I give as many details as I can. However, if anyone has any questions or something is not particularly clear, I do want to make sure that they do reach out to you or reach out to me so that way we can kind of clear that up because it is a lot of information sometimes.
Exactly. So I know you shared some things with me earlier, and I was just so intrigued with a lot of things that you've done. Can you just elaborate more on because I know your majors in as far as having your master's in psychology, and that was my love too when I was in college. But I know it runs very deep. So what do you want to share with the audience today?
So basically, now what I do mainly is I work with couples who are on the brink of divorce, or one partner is basically in a world of pain or trouble and they're suffering. And it seems as if they just cannot get it right. They cannot identify what the issue is, but they want to change. Usually in a relationship, that's one person and the other person is like, I'm out. So I really deal with people in a brink of crisis in order to help them understand themselves and understand where it's coming from and things of that nature. So usually when someone comes to me, we would go ahead and talk about kind of what's happening in their life. It's a little bit different from therapy because in therapy, most people kind of start at the beginning and then they work their way into what is ailing them now. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
I take an approach where I say, okay, what is hurting you right now, like in this moment today?
So
And
you bring
then
it.
I will take exactly. And
Mm.
so it doesn't take years, whereas sometimes therapy can take years because it takes a long time to kind of bring someone up to speed. I kind of take the approach of working backwards. What's hurting you right now? Let's get to the bottom of that. Once we find the root of the problem, I can pretty much tie it back to your childhood and then we can use that to help you, but we don't have to go back to childhood all of the time and bring it forward.
That's interesting because you're right. Most people start from the beginning and work their way to the end. You from the end to work your way to the beginning. That's very, very interesting. Let me
And the
ask you this.
reason why, oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead and say what you want to say.
I was going to say the reason why I do that is because what happens to us in childhood is basically the same thing that's showing up today.
Hmm.
Um, and it's all connected. And sometimes it's very hard for people to pinpoint something that happened in their childhood. Sometimes, if you've had a very traumatic childhood, then some people begin to block those memories out and
Hmm.
they don't remember anything from their childhood. So they can't tell you what happened. Two, a lot of people, when you get to a certain age, you begin to justify what happened in your childhood. So if you had a very abusive parent or you had a parent that was non-existent, then you begin to say, well, they were working and I understand why they weren't there. So they didn't abandon me, or they got a divorce and so that's why they weren't there. Or they had a worse childhood than I did. So it's okay. And then it's hard to pinpoint some of those things going back to childhood because as you begin to grow up and you have life experiences, we do understand sometimes why people show up the way they do.
Mhm.
However, it doesn't negate the fact that as a child, you experience certain things. So for me, I like to start basically where you are now, what is ailing you now, and then we can tie that back to some things in childhood, especially if you don't remember. Or sometimes once you get into the mode of what's happening now, old memories will start to resurface.
Mm. And that's I know when I did my podcast, Putting Away the Pain, and I was sharing, my story, of my childhood. And so you're right. I mean, pain is such a huge thing. And the sad thing really for me is to know how many people really are suffering, from pain from way back when. Just like I said in my intro, just a number of people that reached out to me, that I mean, even some people like 60s and 70s, and you're
Mm,
thinking, but you were still carrying it. And so it's so ingrained, it's so in you that I think for me, I'm just thankful that I was able for myself to peel away those pains so I didn't have to carry it. Of course, I still remember it, I mean, very vividly, but the pain isn't there. And so when you as you're talking to people and you say, "Well, tell me your pain right now," and these come in all ages, I'm sure. So it's the pain in the present, and that's
yes.
that's that's huge. That's huge.
Exactly. Because and that's the thing, most people go to counseling, they seek out therapy, they seek out podcasts, books, and things of that nature because they're hurting right now. And a lot of people just want to stop the hurting. And so that's kind of what I do. I'm like, hey, we can stop this pain now. It doesn't mean that you're going to be totally healed in one session. It doesn't mean that everything goes away, but the pain can stop. And really, honestly, and truly, a lot of people don't understand that pain is something that only lasts about 90 seconds.
I didn't
But
know
the
that.
idea and the story we have around it is what
Mm,
lasts for years and decades.
oh, okay.
But if you don't know that, then you're carrying that with you, kind of like what you said. You're carrying that to every relationship, you're
Everything.
carrying that to every interaction that you have. And then, kind of what I like to visualize it as is when you're born, you're a blank slate. And through each interaction, whether conscious or subconscious, you create a button. And that's basically a pain point or a happy thing. And as you go through life, people begin to push your buttons.
Mm,
And they may do something that makes you happy. They may push one that makes you upset. They may push one that makes you sad and all of that. And then you become an adult. And then you have so many buttons
mm.
that anybody at any given time can set you off.
You just push one.
Exactly.
Wow.
And as a person, we say, you push my buttons. It's your
Mm,
fault. Like, stop doing these things.
mm,
And a lot of people don't have, and I have nothing against therapy. I do not have anything against therapy. However, sometimes when people go to therapy, it is a way to communicate and
mm,
help with communication. But sometimes in therapy, it's a way to communicate better to your partner what you don't like about them instead of learning how to communicate and fix some of the things that are within you. And
mm.
so, really, honestly, and truly, I'm like, let's identify the buttons. And because you're in control of them, let's
That's
get
true.
rid of them.
Hmm.
And when you get rid of all those buttons, then when you go through life and people are poking at you and they're trying to press, there's nothing there.
Yeah, good.
And so you don't have to blow up. You don't have to cry all day. You don't have to be sad. You don't like, you're more in control of what's happening to you and how you respond to that.
Wow,
Sometimes you're not in control all the way of what happens to you, but you are definitely in control of how you respond to it.
good. And that's really what gets us more in trouble, to be honest, which is if how you deal with if a button is even pushed. What do you do and how
Exactly.
do you, I mean, where do you take those emotions that you have? Do you take those emotions to a place that I mean, a lot can happen. just on a given snap, you do something that is something so out of character, but you allowed your emotions to go there because somebody pushed that one button,
Mhm.
that you decide to lose it over. So I totally,
Exactly.
totally get that. But a lot of those is because you've been carrying that. That button didn't just happen to be there just because it just showed up. That button been there. And
Oh
that's
yeah, you created it.
yeah.
The button, you had
Yeah.
all the tools to make the button, and there it is. And so that's the thing too. I think emotions get a bad name,
Mhm.
but they're not a bad thing. We've all had people who were so emotional that you couldn't take it, or that they had so many lack of emotion that you just never knew what was going on. You never knew where you stood.
That's
And
true.
basically the realness is that everything that we experience in life as far as emotions can all be tied to four core emotions. And that's anger, joy, fear, and sadness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like to teach. And it's like, okay, we take whatever emotion you're having, we narrow it down to one of those four core emotions. And then that can tell me what it is that's within you
Mhm.
that you need. Because really, emotions are not bad. However, they're there to tell us something. They're not there for us to sit in them and
Mhm.
stew in them
Yeah.
or let them take over. It's more so, it's just a warning sign that says, hey, something's wrong or I need something. And if you understand what those emotions mean and what they're trying to tell you, then you can literally begin to give that to yourself in what we call in the psychological space or the psychology space is to self regulate. So now I don't need you to say certain things to me for me to be okay. I don't need you to react a certain way for me to be okay.
Good.
I don't need to control you. I don't need to manipulate you. I don't need to do any of that. You don't even have to apologize to me.
Mhm.
I'm okay because I understand what my emotions are telling me. I'm listening to them and I'm giving myself what I need and I'm okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. And that's just taking control of you and what those emotions are. You're in control. You're not letting someone else be in control. And that's where we really fail a lot. And that's
Yes.
why pain is still there because we haven't yet taken control. I love that. I remember when we were speaking at one point, and you was telling me about four things. Um, was that addressed, or have you not addressed that?
Yeah, so that would be your four core emotions, which are anger, joy, fear, and sadness. And basically, I'll take one of them and kind of give you an overview of
Okay.
kind of what that emotion is. So
Mhm.
I'm going to use one of my favorites because this is something that I personally dealt with. My story is a little bit different, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background.
Mhm.
Growing up, I did not have a huge array of things that were happening around me that were tumultuous. I pretty much had a normal
Mhm.
childhood. There were some things that happened, of course, but nothing that was just where somebody would say, "Okay, that's your issue." And so it was very hard for me to identify my issues as a person because I would compare myself to other people, and I was like, "Well, I wasn't abused. I
Mhm.
wasn't abandoned. I wasn't all of these things. So why do I have these issues?" And the realness was, no, I didn't have maybe some of the bigger issues that other people have. However, every single person on this earth is flawed,
Mhm.
and we are not perfect,
Sure.
and we are raised by imperfect people in
Absolutely.
an imperfect world.
Mhm.
So to think that there is someone that does not have trauma is a fallacy. We all have it. We all have issues
Yes.
and they're just different. They just show up different. So once I realized that, okay, it doesn't mean that I'm without pain, then I can identify it. So that's the next step. Once you can understand that maybe it wasn't something big that happened to you, maybe it was something very small. Maybe it was just in your childlike mind, you couldn't understand some of the things that were happening around you, and there was a misinterpretation of something. So that way you can pinpoint it. So for me, in my household, the only thing that I was given was I could either be happy or I could be upset. But we were not allowed to be sad, and we were not allowed to be afraid.
Okay.
It wasn't that my mom told me, you're not allowed to be sad or you're not allowed to be afraid. It was more so when I was sad, she would say, hey, stop crying. You don't have a reason to be upset.
Yeah.
Other people have it way worse than you. You should be happy.
Yeah.
And so internally, that gave me the idea that, okay, well, it's not okay to be sad. If I do feel sad, then I need to brush that away.
Yeah.
If I'm fearful or if I'm afraid, my mom would always say, God is not giving you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, peace, and a sound mind. And so that basically told me as a child, don't ever say that you're afraid of anything because that's not God given and all this other stuff. So the only emotion that I really connected with was anger and joy. So either I was happy or I was
Awesome.
upset. And even if I was sad, even if somebody hurt me, I was upset. I wasn't crying. I now wanted to fight you. Like
Yeah.
it was just one or the other. And so with that, I realized that anger was my driving emotion. That meant if you upset me at work, then I was actually going to respond. If you
Mhm.
upset me in my personal life, that's when I was going to do something. It wasn't until I got really angry that I was even going to make changes in my life. And so basically I found myself angry all the time. And so anger basically on the outside, people would say, oh, she's not an angry person. She's always happy. She's so this, she's so that, because it can show up as I'm a go-getter.
Mhm.
I'm results driven. I'm goal oriented and all of these great things. But really on the inside, it was anger. And I did not feel safe
Mhm.
and I did not feel secure within
Mhm.
myself. So I would overcompensate
Mhm.
until when I got angry, basically. And so now I know when I start to feel those emotions of anger, that means somewhere deep down inside, I don't feel safe.
Mhm.
I don't feel safe at this job. I don't feel safe in this relationship. I don't feel safe in this friendship. Whatever it is, now I know when those feelings come up, that's what it's telling me. So instead of going and reacting to that person, now I know, okay, why don't I feel safe? What's happening? Okay, I don't feel safe because they yelled at me, or I don't feel safe because they hurt me. And I remember when I was a kid, I
Mhm.
used to get yelled at. And or I was never listened to as a child. So now someone is talking over me or doing something and it's bringing up all these childhood feelings that I had that I did not feel safe enough to be able to say. Because if I did say it, the adult in my life would say,
Mhm.
be quiet. You don't have a reason to feel that way.
Mhm.
And so I begin to dismiss my feelings. And then it wasn't until I would get in relationships that I would realize they dismiss my feelings.
Mm.
But it was only because I did it.
Yeah, you
And
dismissed.
they were
Yeah.
exactly. Any
Mhm.
relationship that you have, it's easy to say, okay, they're doing this and they're doing that. But really, it's just a mirror that's reflecting back to us the things that we're doing. And
Wow.
it's the hardest thing sometimes to understand when you say, they hurt me. And it's like, yes, they did.
Mhm.
However, you're also hurting you. And because we can control ourselves, it's for us now to make the change. And when we make the change within ourselves, we reflect that back out. And then the people that were hurting you or doing you wrong, you will begin to recognize they show up different because you're showing up different.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's just so interesting what you just, sharing your story and all that you had to deal with in life growing up as a child, just two emotions, anger or joy. And it's so many more emotions in between, and then to carry that, and we carry so much of what we experience, but we carry so much of what we learn to be. And so even as you say, even as adult, you overcompensated that with, you know, whether you were trying to be a high achiever or whatever it was, you masking what you really felt. And so, but the pain and the discomfort of what it really is doesn't just go away. You just found a way to just feed it, do something else, but it's still there. And it just amazes
Absolutely.
me how um everybody, I mean, it just like you said, we're flawed, raised by imperfect people. And the world is flawed. And it's so much what's imperfect in the world, and then you trying to find your best self in it. And if you don't get the right feeding as a child, then it's even that much more difficult as an adult on any level. Be honest, any level, because you never really got the proper nourishment of your proper feeding when it dealt with your emotions or just being able to just express yourself. If you disappointed or if you were fear, that's true emotion. Those are real. But to
Exactly.
say you can't express it and you have to shut it down, it was never allowed. So you don't even know what it is for you to be healthy to feel it.
Exactly. And
You
that's the
allow,
thing.
yeah,
And the reason why it was shut down was because the adults around me didn't know how to manage their feelings. So
that,
they had no room for mine.
right.
So it
Wow.
wasn't that they didn't love me. It wasn't that they could not even regulate themselves. They were never given the tools
Mm,
to even ask themselves, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? How do I feel? So then when you're met with all these emotions of other people, you can't deal with it. You have no room for it.
mm. And no
And so
tolerance.
that's the thing.
And
Oh,
no
no
tolerance.
tolerance.
No
It's
tolerance.
almost irritating. And most people who have children will understand that because they usually have children. You always have one child who is like you, and then you always have a child that is nothing like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
True.
you're like, what is going on? But it's almost those children are mirrors because that's a relationship. Your partner is a mirror to you. Sometimes your friendships are mirrors to you. And so the very thing that irritates you in other people is usually something within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. Totally agree with that. Wow. That's real deep. Um, with the audience, and those that have seen Course Peel Away the Pain, what are you recommending for them?
So honestly and truly, the hardest part for most people is just to identify their needs. Most people in this particular generation that have grown up in the last 60 years have no idea what they need.
Mm,
And they're looking to other people and other things, whether it be jobs, drugs, love, sex, whatever it is, they're
mhm.
looking to all of these things and people to feel them, FILL them. When
Mm,
really, honestly,
not,
and
I'm
truly,
just gonna interrupt you real quick. Not
mhm,
Leel, but FILL. Wow. That's,
yes.
yes.
And that's basically what we're doing. We're gravitating to all of these things and these people because we are empty and we want to be filled with something. We want to feel better. We want to FEEL better.
Mhm.
But we have to understand what it is that we're missing, what needs as a child went unmet, because those will be the same needs that as an adult usually are being unmet. And the scary part is that when we grow up, we gravitate towards people in like our romantic relationships that emulate the parent that we had the most difficulty with.
Wow. I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Okay.
No, and I won't go into it because that's another podcast. But I just figured that out for myself a few months ago. That
Mhm.
exact thing. That's amazing that you said that. And I'm 66 years old. And I just found that out while I was 66. That's what I had done.
Mhm.
That's crazy. I
It
mean, it's
is. And that's their brain's way of trying
like,
to fix us. Like our our innate ability is for survival. We will do anything to survive as human beings. In that survival, though, we are trying to be healed and whole. It is within us. So as we move along through life, we pick people and situations that
mhm,
are going to help us heal and grow. Problem is, healing and growing, while it is amazing, it is hard and sometimes painful.
mhm.
The healing process sometimes is painful. To rip off a scab hurts.
Yeah.
If you break a finger and it heals incorrectly, we re-break that bone. That's painful. Now, long term or in the end, as we like to say, it's better. We're healthier. We're all of these things, but it's a process. And a lot of times when we start to experience pain in the process of healing, we stop. So that relationship that was so wonderful in the beginning, that now is bringing us so much pain, we just end the relationship
Wow.
instead of saying, okay, what is this? Why did I pick this person? Because I picked this person for a reason. What are they trying to tell me? What is this relationship trying to teach me? And
Mhm.
all of these things. Instead, we get rid of the person. We end the relationship. We go on to the next one, and then it shows up again.
Goes up again. Yes.
And then
So you
people say, well, you have a pattern.
have, because a lot of time we end up picking the same people, same type of
Yeah.
people, same type of people. And just, I mean, that's amazing. I know with the podcast being they connecting with the pain, connecting with your pain. And all that you're saying is it's so important to connect. You have to, like you said, to identify, to connect with it, because otherwise, how are you going to know what it is? I mean,
Yeah.
and like I said, when you finding people in the moment of where their pain is, I want you to connect with it in the moment, because you hear because there is pain, and so at least you know that much. But how do you connect with that pain? You
Well,
know,
it's going to be different for everyone, really, honestly and truly, because some people, their pain is so deep that they're going to want to stop. And they really probably do need to reach out to a coach, a counselor, a therapist of some sort, because they might hit a wall. And everything in you, because we are wired for survival, everything in you is going to tell you to stop. This hurts too much. It's too painful. Stop. But if you have someone, even a friend or something of that nature, it's really good to ask someone on the outside of you to see you.
mm,
This is why relationship is so important, because in order to really get to the bottom of the pain, a lot of times it takes someone on the outside to say, this is what I see. This is the pattern that I'm seeing.
mm,
Or, hey, I noticed you do this.
mm,
Why? Or,
mm,
I noticed you're having a hard time. What's behind that? I
mhm,
know in your last episode, you noticed something, but you went to your son to say, hey, I noticed this.
mhm.
What is it?
Right.
And sometimes that's what we need to do. We
Mhm,
need to ask people on the outside, hey, know that when I make these decisions in my life, I'm literally making these decisions thinking I'm making the best decision with the information that I have. However, things are going wrong. Do you see any gaps? Am I missing something?
mhm,
Do you see any anger? Do you see fear? Do you see sadness? What are you seeing? That's one way. Another way is to, whenever you have a overwhelming emotion, because emotions are really good to tell us something. So when you feel it, don't dismiss it.
Mhm.
Sit with it, and then begin to ask yourself those questions. What am I feeling? When have I felt this way before? Because the thing is, if I'm in an argument with my boss at work, I could be very upset. But then I have to say, okay, when have I been this upset before? And then I say, oh, when I was arguing with my husband before I left the house. Okay. Well, when was I? Okay. I remember as a kid, I used to feel this way when so and so did this. And if you could literally begin to just feel it and then connect it to previous
Mm,
situations in which you felt it, you can sometimes go very far back to childhood, and that will give you the root.
mm,
Because a lot of the things is we are trying to heal the fruit of the, and we're chopping off branches that the
mm.
fruit is growing, and it's growing back twice as big
Yeah,
and twice as much.
yeah.
We never get to the root. And so, really, honestly, and truly, the thing is, we want to feel it, FEEL it, so that way we can say, when did I feel this before?
Mhm,
When do I usually feel this sad?
mm,
When do I feel this angry? When do I feel this happy? When do I feel this afraid? And you can sometimes go all the way back. And if you come to a stop, a good thing is to journal it, write it
mm.
down.
Yes.
So, write, if you're having a strong emotion, begin to write what was happening around that time when you felt that way. Um, Another thing is just by really giving yourself time.
Mhm,
Um, it sounds really crazy, but if you have a relationship with Christ, I would say that you would pray and you would ask the Holy Spirit to reveal those things to you. But the key is, after you do that, is to sit in silence and allow Him to speak back to you into your spirit,
I
and
know
to be
that.
able to tell you. Because a lot of times we're talking to God, but then we don't take the time to listen, to hear what else He's saying, or to hear Him answer the question that we asked.
Totally agree. One thing that you said previously that struck with me, and that is, you know, just about when people, want to talk about it, like you said, FEEL, feeling it, and because that is so vital to actually feel what that is. Because if not, it's almost like you excusing the pain if you don't FEL. And so, or it's not as bad as I thought it was. But when you really
Mhm.
feel the pain, you know how bad it is. And that's if anything, just tells you where you are. Another thing that you said to me that kind of struck me is like if you go to someone else who can help you to identify some of those behaviors that you're exhibiting, and then you have to be open, of course, to hearing their constructive criticism about you instead of want to debate it. Well, I'm not really.
Yes.
Don't, if you ask me, then you ask for my truth. So you have to be willing to accept my truth, not debate my truth. And I
And
wanted to
I
ask
think
you that.
that's a huge thing. That's a
Mhm.
huge thing.
Yeah.
But that's some people's buttons. So when we begin to tell people how they're showing up, how they're perceived, sometimes that's a button for them.
Yeah. You ask, but do you really want to know?
Exactly.
It's the difference because you come asking thinking it may not be that bad, but when you find out it's really that bad, but did you really want to know? And then it's almost like, right, now I push the button. And now you upset with me because you can't handle the truth. Well,
Yeah,
that's when you shouldn't ask unless you're willing to be open to the truth. Because that's a lot of people not willing to hear truth about themselves. And that's not, I mean, that's all part of the healing is to be open to seeing yourself in a mirror of someone that's looking, of what that looks
exactly.
like. I did want to ask you this though, because you didn't touch on this, and I'm not even sure if you even do this. Some people are like, I'll go, but I don't want to go really by myself. Do they ever
Mhm.
bring a buddy? Someone that they trust to be with them. Or do you suggest that? Don't suggest that, or where is that with that?
So I personally do not suggest it.
Hmm.
I do suggest that you have someone that you can decompress with.
Hmm.
However, when you're going into a space of real healing, you never know what can come up.
Gotcha.
And if somebody is there with you, sometimes that can hinder you from really going to a space that you need to go to. So personally for me in my coaching, it is one-on-one. Even sometimes if it is a couple, I will split them and do certain exercises
Hmm.
because if you're in a situation and something comes up, it could push the buttons of the person that's with you. And then subconsciously we begin to shut down because we don't want to hurt them.
That's true.
Or we know that something's triggering for them. Or we're saying something and now they're over here like, oh, I didn't even know that. And they're reacting to it and it hinders your
And like
progress.
being judged a lot of times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, especially with family and things of that nature, sometimes it's family members that have done things.
Mhm.
Um, and you don't want to necessarily say that in front of certain people.
True.
Um, if it's a situation where it's your partner and somebody took advantage of you, sometimes they want to rise up and be that warrior for you,
Mhm.
but it really just hinders you from being able to speak. So personally, I do not suggest going with someone. I feel like if it's a situation where there is some fear there, then fear tells us that we are not being seen or understood.
Gotcha.
And usually, when fear comes up and anxiety and things of that nature, it just means that there is some missing information there. So that's when you begin to start to ask yourself questions. Why am I so afraid? What part of this is scary? Why don't I want to be alone? Why do I feel like I need someone else to be able to have my truth and things of that nature? So once you begin to ask yourself those questions, maybe something happened in the past and that's why you feel that way.
Mhm.
But no, it is not my suggestion to anyone to bring someone else because as you begin to heal, things will come up. And sometimes the other person is a hindrance
Mhm.
to that experience.
I can truly understand that because everybody don't want the whole truth to be told to someone they know. You may can tell some truths, but sometimes you don't want the whole truth to be told because unfortunately, a lot of people are judgmental, and even if it's not even judgmental, but how do you know it won't come back later be used against you? So, but like you
Exactly.
said, I'm giving you a safe space. I'm giving you a space where just me and you. You don't know me, I don't know you, so everything stays right here. But I'm really here to help you so you can be as transparent, as open, as probably you will be, which is to the core of everything, because
Mhm.
this safe space is for you. And so,
Exactly.
but I love so much about what you've shared with us today. I mean, a lot because it really is about. It's so much about how do we get from knowing your pain, identifying your pain, to the place of losing your pain, peeling away that pain, and you're just saying, but it can happen. It does happen, but it takes work. It takes you
Exactly.
to
It's a
heal, it takes
process.
you to go there, to be
Mhm.
in pain in order to get removed from your pain. You got to go in and feel it. Like I said, because that way you can truly identify with what that is. And that is to be willing to go through the pain. And that's really connecting, like really connecting with it. Um, I mean, I love what you're doing. I mean, I really do, and how you're helping people because healing is so important. It really we're
Yes.
it. I mean, we walk around and it just. I mean, you can see some people who literally haven't even. You can just see somebody walking in, and you can just read the pain, and you don't even
Mhm.
know. But they,
You
but the
can
pain
feel
is
it.
You can feel the aura about them. It's just a
Mhm.
pain that they carry. And that's sad because they just walk around in pain. You can see it, you can feel the aura with the pain. And it's but that's where they are.
Well,
That's
and that's the thing. I think a lot of people want to help others, and they don't realize that the best way you can help someone else is by healing yourself. Because when I am healed, and it's a journey, so it's not like, oh, I have arrived and I'm healed and I never need anything else. But as I'm healing, then I have the capacity to help someone else.
exactly.
But if I am so unhealed and I have so many things going on within me, I don't have the capacity. And so I think as there are people in this world who are empaths and they feel everything and they see everything and they want to help others, I would urge them to really turn that inward and work on themselves first. And then as they show up, people, you will start to attract people around you that say, okay, something is different about you.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me what I can do. I see the light.
Mm,
I feel your aura. What do you have? Because I
yeah.
need it. I want it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the best way to help someone else
Mm,
who you can feel that is going through something or that they're hurting and they're in pain is to really just connect with your own pain. Because a lot of times, too, we're attracting people that are having the same pain points as us,
mhm.
and then we're making it worse.
Yeah. Two pain people hanging out together. It's pain. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I totally agree with that. When you're at your best and being, providing at your best self, then you truly can help somebody else because you at your best. And so, and people want to mimic. They, like you said, people want to know, wow, I want some of that.
Mhm.
So, and then you can share your story because, like you said, we're all on some level, where there's some sense of pain, but it can be on the minimum, but you can be on the max, but still, because the world is so imperfect. And we're all flawed. So we're never in a
Yes.
perfect place. I tell people all the time, I mean, the fact that it's a journey for everybody. It's a struggle for everybody. You can be balanced one day and tomorrow thing could just take you out of sync. And like I said, you can wake up and it's your best day. Like, oh my God, it's a good day. Oh my God, now this is a good day. And by the end of the day, you try to find yourself again. Because I
Mhm.
think for you to always try to find that balance in relationships, starting with yourself, you're always at work because you always
Absolutely.
trying to keep that balance. I mean, just like anything else in a ball or anything else, the air seeps out, just like a tire. It eventually is going to seek out. So you have to keep putting air in to find that balance. So I love what you said. I appreciate you being on. Um, I just so thankful that you my first guest, and really the way it just rolled out from my last episode, Feeling Away the Pain, to me was just a perfect segment to start this and allow people to connect with their pain and find an avenue. So if you could share with us, how does anyone find you, seek you out if they choose to? Um,
Well, I do work with a company and I'm also a coach individually. I have a website which is HERspectivecoach.com. Her is basically my acronym, which is helping every relationship
okay.
perspective. And so basically it's just looking at how you relate. That's how we start, that's how we pinpoint it, that's how we make sure everything is good. And every emotion is not bad. It is not bad to be angry. It is not bad to be fearful.
Yes.
It is not bad to be sad. It is
Yes.
not a bad thing to be happy or joyous. Those are all emotions that we need. They're telling us something. So don't dismiss those feelings thinking, I have to be happy all the time
No, you
or
don't.
something is wrong with
There's
me because
nothing
I'm
wrong with you.
sad.
You are happy all the time. I mean,
Exactly. Something is wrong if you're not feeling all of those emotions. If you're not
uh,
feeling all of those emotions at some point in time, then yes, something is wrong.
nothing wrong with you.
Uh, but yes, You can send me an email if you have any questions, if you want any coaching opportunities. If you get with me through my website, through my email, I will give you my website. And that's where you can book and things of that nature. But everything is needed and necessary in this life, even though society tells us sometimes we're not supposed to be certain ways. We are human. We have feelings. It's
Right.
okay. It's okay to embrace them. We
It
just
is.
don't have to be controlled by them.
There you go. And that's a good ending. So on my website, www.sharewithcharlotte.com, we will also put her email so that you guys can see that. And I just want to say thank you, Shamary. Great information. And I'd like to have you back again. So thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
this.
much.
Awesome. And thank you for all those that are listening or will be listening. We appreciate you guys. And I hope this has been insightful, helpful, and useful information. Thank you. I hope that this episode has connected with you in some way, whether it's being one that was informative, one encouraging, whether hopeful, or whatever it is. I hope that it will help you as you journey through life. I do encourage you to go to my website at www.sharewithcharlotte.com and click on that button that says subscribe and also the one that says follow and be a part of this journey with me. We have a lot of material, a lot of more episodes with so much to share with you that I would love to be a part of where we continue this journey together. I want to say thank you for everything that you do to tune in, to continue to support me. And also, you can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. And I look forward to the next episode. Thank you so much.